Hi, everyone. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I'm joined by Dr. Susan Nash. This is eLearnChat, and we are going to talk about something everyone is talking about, but maybe for good reason. Uh, AI, artificial intelligence, which can also be absolute idiocy. But in this case, we're looking at artificial intelligence and how it can help with developing e learning from either existing content or even from brand new content that you're creating. Uh, Susan has been involved with that for a while, and she's got some great ideas on what e learning is, what AI assisted e learning is, or I should say, e learning assisted AI. We can get some interesting work out of AI to make our things just a little bit better. Susan.
Well, this is an interesting topic, and I've had a chance to review courses and programs and develop the courses using tools. But I will say that one of the challenges is to figure out exactly the right way. And so, as a course or instructional designer or instructional technologist, it's tempting to say, okay, we can just do this completely automated. And I've actually reviewed courses where the actual grading is done through AI. It's really not anything new because I don't know if anybody remembers Prometrics or Pearson exams that you would go in and they attempted to have a grader for the essay questions. And so it's not anything new, but now we're in a point where it's not really about automation of the teaching process. It's more about finding out ways to double check your work and automate and help have in terms of developing content, developing the structure, learning objectives, and even trying to then export into a course that's on like a free platform. But anyway, what are your thoughts, Rick?
I agree, and especially for example, a lot of people say we don't like objectives. Well, okay, granted, maybe you don't want to focus on objectives in a course nonstop, but you need objectives. You have to have an idea what you want to teach and where you're going with it. Well, that's one area AI is really good at creating objectives. If you give it content, it can figure out objectives. Does that mean it's right? No, but it means you have a starting point, and then you can modify it to whatever fits your need. I think that's where people get a little bit confused by what can AI do aside from destroying the world, which is the common rumor. Um, yeah, now, AI is strong. It's powerful in many ways. It's also stupid. It's not always as smart as people think.
Well,
So,
exactly. No, I'm so glad to hear you say that because you have to start with something concrete. And I'll give you a specific example. So, I recently had a chance to do a, um, basically a webinar, and the idea was talking about economics, and it was something that was done by Bill DeMis. And so we recorded it, and then I put it up on YouTube. Well, I thought this would be really interesting if somebody would like to have this as kind of a mini course. They'll do it for free. I'm just going to use this as an experiment. So what I did is I recorded it in Zoom. Then I went through and got the audio out and the part of it, and then I used Google Notebook LM, and then I the uploaded the audio. So essentially all the content was all about that one presentation and that one topic. It wasn't like a general thing about, oh, talk about macroeconomics. And then so that way I limited it so I could kind of have a better chance of accuracy. And then I asked it to create a summary and then also to look at building 8 learning objectives, four that were lower level Bloom's taxonomy that has to do like identify, just the lower level, and then some that were higher level that had to do with 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 like analyze, evaluate. And that was and it did it right away. So then and I looked at it, I thought these look good. You know, it's the describe, list, identify, and they're all measurable. So then I thought, okay, now I'm going to ask it to develop multiple choice questions based on this script that tie to the lower level blooms. And it did it. It was great. And then it also pointed to the part in the script where it was where the answer was. And
Hmm.
then for higher level blooms, it did short answer kind of essay questions. So I was just really impressed. That said, I would be very worried about making the topic too broad or giving it too much stuff to work with.
Now, how much did you have to edit the content?
Okay, so when I looked through and I really didn't have to edit much at all. It was really good. Um, and actually the transcript didn't make very many I mean there really weren't any typos. It got the terms correct,
Hmm.
which kind of shocked me. But it wasn't geological. And it was more macro. It was about economics and the devaluation of the dollar and tying it to the future, the price of oil and things like that. Regular vocabulary.
Yeah, but still, it is with terminology that may be somewhat scientific or technical. Um, and which AI engine did you use?
Okay, it was Google and it was
Gemini?
LM Notebook.
Was that Gemini?
Gemini, yes. So it's
Gemini.
Google Gemini LM Notebook. And I mean, it was astonishingly good. Now, the next step, though, which was to try to export it and export the and put it into Google Classroom, I failed.
Oh,
It was
interesting.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I mean, in fact, you could link to it and link to the artifacts where it would let you do the multiple choice questions,
Hmm.
but I couldn't get it to export into any kind of code that I could then put into Google Classroom or any kind of learning management system.
Did
So,
did
yeah.
it prompt you for what kind of SCORM, for example, you were looking at? In other words, you've got the common one out there is SCORM 2004, I think, version 3 or level 3. Then you've got a lot of people still on SCORM 1.2. I mean, there's a lot of variants on SCORM. And depending on the SCORM version, which the LMS supports, and I think Google probably does support most of them. I haven't really played with all of them. But I'm assuming at least SCORM, probably 1.2, SCORM 2004, different versions of it. Probably it supports it. Um, but then it may need to wrapper it somehow. So
Yeah,
there is,
I didn't even look. We'll have to explore that because I didn't even think to explore to export in SCORM.
yeah, because
And
SCORM will
yeah,
generate it should generate the XML correctly.
okay.
And that may have been the problem. May not
Hmm.
be though, because sometimes that's one of the things with AI. It doesn't always give you what you want. I know people use it to generate JavaScript, and it works sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time. That's the problem. When you're trying to code something, it's got to find the code snippets that make sense, and half the time they don't. Um,
Yeah.
that's where it gets tricky. I know programmers who always say, yeah, I'm gonna have a job for a long time because it's not there yet. Um, though it is amazing some of the information you can get out of some of the AIs. Now there aren't, there's what, but three basic AI tools. You've got OpenAI, which is the Chat GPT, that's doing okay. That's probably best at language oriented things. Not that much technical. It can generate content to a point, media content. Um, from what I've been reading and watching, and also playing with, Gemini right now seems to be the overall probably best one. It's very flexible. It's also incredibly fast. From the tests I've been doing, it's pretty quick at generating content, as well as, like, if you're doing any kind of photo content or you're trying to create your own scenes. It's pretty amazing. Um, and with word usage, English language or whatever language it's using, it's pretty good. I've done some testing where it can generate English or Spanish. I know it does a whole
Hmm.
mess of languages. I think there's at least
Yeah.
10 of them,
Yeah.
major ones. And the translations are clean. They're pretty good. So if you do need localization, that's something that these tools buy you, which makes me wonder
Well,
what's going to happen to a lot of the localization vendors in the future as the tools become more and more intelligent, more capable, especially with language.
yeah. Well, just speaking of language, just to jump in, Google Translate has been around for 20 years or so.
Mhm.
And at the very first, it was pretty primitive. And
Right.
then it got a lot better. And then now, of course, I've used it to communicate just, like verbally because you can use it with your phone and then you'll say it and it'll translate out and then you'll speak in and that it's been able to do that for several years. I used it in China for that, and that
Hmm.
was back in 2019. It's just gotten better. So I think the nuances are there and the technical, but you have to speak clearly.
Right, right. But also when you start thinking of a language like Chinese, which is very different from Western languages.
Hmm.
The syntax is backwards from the way we do things. Um, it does an incredible job of translating quickly.
And tonal stuff.
Hmm.
Well, I used it. I was in at a trip to Stanford. I was taking an Uber, and the guy really didn't speak anything but Chinese. So
In
he gave me
Stanford.
basics, and so I would say, well, like there was a really bad driver, so I said crazy driver, and I had it translated into Chinese. Then I said it, tried to pronounce it, and I thought, and he understood it and laughed, and I thought. I've tried to learn Chinese, and I think that this would be the only way I could learn conversational is to be in the situation and actually interacting and then using this AI assistance. Because otherwise, I just have a mental block, although I've learned other languages.
Right, right. Though I think it's great that you wind up only in America can you take a cab and the person speaks not a word of English. It's great.
Any other country, they're speaking English. No,
That's
I'm
right. Yeah, they'll
kidding.
speak better than we do half the time. Um, but that is funny. But you're right. It is different, and depending where you are in China, even though in mainland China, it's Mandarin.
Hmm.
And so there is at least a common language, but there are still the regional languages, Toisan and Cantonese,
Oh,
and
yeah, I go to Hong Kong.
they're different. And even parts of China have different. It's more Mandarin based, but there are differences. You've got just different ways of saying things. So it's 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 not the easiest language to get around with, and it's one of the hardest languages to train your ears with
Mm.
because you're dealing with Mandarin. I took Mandarin for I think it was 2 years in
Oh,
college.
nice.
I took it for 2 years. I went as far as learning how to paint. It was fun
Oh, do
learning
the
how to paint, do
calligraphy? Cool.
calligraphy. I was doing calligraphy, um, and that was actually really fun. It was relaxing, and I made my own ink with mortar and pestle, and um, that was fun. And the Chinese teacher I had, he was a teacher at LA City College, actually, and he also taught at UCLA. And he was considered a Chinese scholar. He knew over 40,000 ideograms or characters. That, you only really need about 3,000 to be somewhat um, literate. He knew, a lot of the older characters and stuff, and a lot of the methods behind how they taught writing and reading. And it was fascinating, but it makes for difficult languages. You have to know your four sounds, up, down, curling, up, down, and straight. So depending on how you say a word, it could have four different meanings. Go to Hong
So
Kong.
interesting. Yeah,
Hong Kong
I
is,
remember doing that. There's like the horse is the same as, there's different words that I remember woman and
yeah, and
horse or
it's the
something.
same word, but the way they use it, and in Hong Kong, I think it's 10 sounds.
Oh, lovely.
So you really got, which is why Hong Kongese sounds maybe a little bit more almost musical. There's a lot more up and down to the language. Um, these are not easy languages to learn as adults because our ears aren't trained to that. You have to really pay a lot of attention. It can be done, obviously, but they're not the easiest. Even if you look at Japanese, that's a tricky language. And the AI tools, especially with the large language models, do a really, really good job with it. It's pretty
Well,
amazing.
yeah, that makes sense because it's all about patterns. Well, I'm thinking
Mhm.
about, okay, one of the big issues that I hear over and over is that, well, AI is going to eliminate everyone and it will eliminate, um, you won't really need to know anything. You don't need to,
No, no,
but
and it
it's just
won't
the
eliminate
opposite.
politicians, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
we're kind of stuck with
yeah.
that one.
But the thing is that like the experience is really what makes AI valuable to combine experience
Mhm.
with the AI tools. I'd say with one or without, you need both.
And 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 like we mentioned earlier, you can't assume the AI tool will be correct. GPT
Hmm.
chat gives a lot of bad answers. They're
Oh,
really
yeah.
dumb
Keep
sometimes.
asking, keep asking, and it will eventually hallucinate. And I was thinking, yeah, and I go, and so like it created all these different examples. I was doing some in-depth asking, questioning it,
Yeah.
and I said, now these statistics do not, I mean, I don't think there have been any real studies on this, and there no, is this a hallucination? And 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 the AI tool goes. Oh yes, it is. And I thought it would sound better.
Oh, that's funny.
And it was no
Um,
apology, nothing. Just and I think what was I using? I think I was using Chat GPT 5, but well, I've also used Bing Copilot pretty extensively,
mhm.
Claude, Anthropic, Gemini.
What was that
And
other one we were using?
oh yeah, percept
Per
yeah,
oh
just
gosh,
perplexity or something.
Perplexity, that was it.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
was just like, I've stopped using it because at first it was good, now it's horrible, and I paid for a year of it, so I need to like
Mm,
see if they're improving it.
yeah, it got good reviews, and it started I don't know, maybe you know what? There's a lot of rumors that many of these AI tools, we're in for a bust, maybe even by end of year. It
Well, I
costs
believe
a
that.
lot. It costs a lot of money to run AI engines, and you
Hmm.
need a lot. They really heat up the machines. It may not look like it, but they do. Especially uh, the more queries they get, the hotter they run.
Hmm.
So, and you get these uh, large language models that are very mathematically based. It's doing nonstop calculations at all times, and if they've got millions of users hitting it at once, that's a lot of data processing, and
Well, I
it's
noticed
amazing
that.
how fast they are.
Yeah, and the pricing is changing too because people were abusing it. And they were just having them
Mm.
apparently just run all night for them and have them do all sorts of things. And that's no longer the case. And you have to, if your usage gets to a certain level, they say, okay, you're over your limit. You start ponying up.
Now, one thing to mention, as we've been talking about this, a lot of what we're talking about can't be done that well on free versions, because
Exactly.
on the
They don't
free
want it to
versions, you
be.
really can't save your queries, you can't save the processes that you're working on, especially if you have complex queries that one generates another, which generates another. Um, that you need the what, $20 a month for it. It seems like all of them are charging about $20 a
Yeah,
month.
that's what I'm paying. And then you can get like these pro versions, but I mean, I certainly wouldn't need that. I mean, that's more.
You know what I love? And this is, getting away from e-learning a bit, but in a way, think about how useful Gemini is, for example. Like, I've had iPhones in the past, not my favorite, but I've had them. I've had a
Mhm.
lot of Samsungs and Androids, pretty much my favorites at this point. Um, but the Apple AI that they introduced was fairly limited. It wasn't very good. The Gemini that I've got on my Samsung, I've got a 24 Ultra right now. I It's amazing. I can be on the road and I can say, "Can you tell me what the menu items for entrees are at a specific restaurant on Tuesday and Wednesday?" It'll tell you the menu
Wow.
items, the cost of them. It'll make recommendations saying, however, a lot of the clients have not liked that filet mignon, so we recommend you get a different steak.
Well,
It's
and okay, so here's the thing though. Um, I've heard that a lot of the like recommendations on Yelp or Google
Mhm.
or whatever for different businesses are just made by bots. Or
Oh,
of
that could
course,
be. Yeah,
and of course they tell people to go in and put in a positive thing. So like, I mean, you want to believe them? Now, I do believe some of the horrible hotel things.
right, right. But it is amazing how they go out and get information very, very quickly across enormous database, especially Google, which has some pretty enormous. Uh,
Well, that's true, but think about it. It's part of it's just part of the web, and it just synthesizes it, which again reminds me that if anything that's free is much more influential than something that's behind a paywall.
True, true. And even the free isn't always accurate.
It's not accurate, but it's
Yeah,
influential because
yeah.
that's what the bots will find.
No, and again, if you are an instructional designer, for example, or a developer, and you think this will generate your whole course, and you don't even have to look at it, think again. Think
You
again. There's
know,
more work involved than you think. It does make certain things very quick. And especially if you already have, let's say, for example, you have a storyboard, you have your script. Now, it can do some pretty amazing things, um, cross-indexing. It can actually call, reference points, things that you may have to do manually. It'll do for you very, very quickly, and those are usually pretty accurate because it's based on what you've given it. If you're looking for it to say, I want to create a course based on, let's say heart surgery, it's not going to give you every procedure of how to create,
well,
how to be a heart surgeon.
there's no
It,
way that it would, and even if
no,
it did, buyer beware. But like one
yeah,
thing that's really bad at, like for example, I wanted to I have a spreadsheet. It's a catalog of books, publications, and I wanted it to turn it into a website.
mm,
This is easy. I'll just say, please create a website, and it said, I'll create a beautiful website. It did not create a beautiful website, and I asked it to go out and get to Amazon and pick up the thumbnails. It didn't do
Mm,
that. It just hallucinated book covers. It was the most
that's in,
ghastly thing.
huh. Well, remember, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, well, which one was that? Was that also on Chat GPT?
I tried it on Gemini
Same
and I
thing?
also tried it with Chat GPT and it was just totally horrible. And I don't know if it's because it was in the spreadsheet and it got some of them right and it matched but in the columns I had the URL for where it was on Amazon. I had the description of it. I had the title. I had the author and the ISBN. And I also had, and I thought, okay, how hard is this? And it just, and I wasted more time. I could have done it myself for the time I
Mm.
wasted trying to make it work. Now, and I don't know if it has to do with the queries or what, but I found that um, it's surprisingly bad at doing
Now, you know
things
what's
with
amazing though, and
because it's so
this is
easy.
now one thing I find really amazing and useful. Let's say you're an Articulate storyline user or
Yes.
developer, and you say, "Oh, how do I do a motion path using Articulate storyline?" And it will tell you right out of the manual or right out of help exactly how to do it. And
Hmm.
it's pretty amazing because sometimes you just, rather than have to go search for it, you just ask. There it is. Oh, that was easy. Um,
Well,
and it
yeah,
can work.
that's good. That's like part of the learning curve, and like
Mhm.
just to use AI tools.
Yeah. So for that kind of stuff, it's a really useful thing. Like I said in the beginning, I like to call it absolute idiocy AI because in many cases, it's amazing how bad it can be. And yet, in other cases, every so often you'll sit there with your mouth hanging open, going, "How did it figure that one out?
Well,
Wow."
exactly. So, for example, again, back to the text of the book thing, I uploaded a full manuscript, and so I said, okay, please review this and then create an overview and then marketing materials. And also cataloging and publication materials for it. And it did it. I was going, wow, this saved me some time. And they were
Yeah.
good. They were accurate. I thought maybe they're not going to be accurate. They actually were. I was totally astonished.
Yeah, and so part of what we're offering as services too is conversions for you. Let's say you've got we just, not that long ago went through a joyous time with COVID, right? Not fun. A lot of people created tons of presentations. They had to go to online this, online
Mhm.
that. There was some online learning. There was a lot of online presentations. And then, oh, we can go back to work or we can do this, that. And that stuff is still there. Nobody's using it. So you may have
Right.
lots of content that you've spent money on, time on. What do you do with it? Do you just throw it away? What about
Yeah.
updating it? That's
Right.
where AI can help. We can take that content, massage it. It's not 100% automatic, but it's a great starting point to create better content out of it. Maybe make it more engaging, make it more interactive, and not lose the investment you had in creating all that content. And now it's just sort of in an attic somewhere in a corporate database.
Yeah,
Susan, you do a lot of presentations.
I
I,
do.
I've seen you. You are prolific in doing presentations, and that's a lot of work.
Yeah, I just gave one
You,
last week.
yeah, yeah, I think you're doing one pretty much weekly. It seems, but you definitely do a lot of them. How much of your time currently? Because I know in the old days, and it wasn't that much older ago, you had to work at it. It was quite a bit of work to get all that stuff done. How much can you leverage right now a lot of the uh, AI tools to at least get you? maybe half or three quarters or even all the way there? How much do they help you?
Well, they definitely help if I'm, for example, if I'm doing a paper, a presentation, like last week I did one on water floods and it basically for enhanced oil recovery, so in
Mm,
legacy fields. So I basically talked about the history of it in Oklahoma, but new advances. I'd written a paper already. So I thought, okay, let's turn this into an outline for a presentation. And then I asked it actually would it would create a slide presentation based on it. And what it considered, I don't think I did. You really need to know like where to highlight what the categories are and what is most important. But it did create it, but I ended up updating it, doing it myself. So it was a really, I'd say it helped somewhat. It depends on what you're doing.
but it does help a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say in this case where it's something where I know my audience, I'm wanting to communicate something and the audience is slightly different on the paper. It did help a lot, except what it did is it helped me focus on the audience too.
Mm.
So the mechanical steps, I believe, um, it just depends on what you're doing. But yes, sometimes it's
Yeah.
very helpful.
Now, that reminds me, one thing you have to be careful with, and this is something we'll talk about more in a future episode. There are a lot of things people are doing that are winding up as part of general AI database knowledge. And these are corporate things that are private. These are security issues, and you
Oh
name it.
yeah.
And it's a problem, and it's a big problem because the companies don't want everything or their content to be used to train. And when I say train, that's how they train AI systems, by pumping data into them. They just give it data, and the AI system organizes that into something it can use later on. They're very good at that. However, they're also very good at taking anything and everything, and they don't care about copyrights or patents or anything else. So you have to be careful with that. There have already been cases of people that have been either fired, reprimanded, or even sued for putting content out there that is proprietary
Well,
or
exactly.
even
Say,
dangerous.
well, yeah, because you
Uh,
say I want to help it create a PowerPoint, and you unwittingly um, upload it into it because you're saying evaluate this. But I think that my experience with working with a lot of tools plus experience is that
mhm,
in updating materials, you can't just put it into one AI bot and expect things to be magically transformed. You have to use a number of different tools
yeah.
and and then fine tune them. And it depends on what you want to do. Some things are easier than others. For example, if you have those little avatars that you can get that you put on a scenario and you have them speak, it's very easy to feed in the script and then have it move its
Mhm.
mouth and generate the whatever language you want it to speak in, the original English or and you can also upload the recording. It doesn't even have to be a script. It can be a recording of yourself. It'll generate a script and then replay you in a different language. Now that's very useful, but that's not one-stop shopping for the entire course.
Right. Yeah. So I think for today, that's probably a good intro for all of those who haven't quite yet jumped into AI that much. And we can probably in the near future show some more examples of how to do some of
Oh
this,
yeah.
um, because it's not going away.
No.
It may implode in certain cases, but I don't think it's going away. Right now, there's a lot of vendors, and a lot of them are one trick ponies. They don't do a lot of things. They speed up certain processes. For example, one of the industries which is really being hit hard by AI is the medical industry, medical documents, medical um, billing and stuff like that.
Hmm.
AI is doing the work of people, and it does it very well with a lot less coding errors and everything else because it's repetitive. It takes information that somebody has already put into a computer, and it fixes it many times. That's an area where the number of jobs are starting to decline. And this was a field that was really booming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Not as much now. So that's one area where we are seeing jobs go down. Now, it still remains to be seen in a year or two how successful it all was. In other words, is it as good as we think it is? Maybe, maybe not. Because
Well,
once you have the data
yeah.
and the trends, then you can really analyze and say, okay, it's been pretty accurate. Maybe we're 95% accurate, whereas we humans were only 75% accurate. So, you know, things to be aware of. Things are changing. Will AI take over our lives? No, no, but we'll see more and more intelligent things. Keep in mind that AI is, for the most part, nothing more than very smart um, uh, recognition, pattern recognition.
Well, exactly. And again, I mean, I've been doing at least especially in oil and gas, there's AI or machine learning and deep learning, predictive, have been around neural networks. They've been around for a
Hmm.
long, long, long time. But now with the large language models, when you can actually interact with it, it's different. And I think that, again, this just gets back to the right tool for what you want to do and use a combination of tools. It, a lot of companies would like to say, "Oh, we have this whole platform that'll do it all for you," and I really think it's not the case. You've got to use a toolkit.
Right, right. And a lot of the AI tools themselves recommend other tools to use
Hmm.
with them. And sometimes you have to build something in one tool to pump into a different tool because not all of the databases are equally smart. And they do different things. A large language model is very good for language, not necessarily maybe the best at generating images or videos or combining things. And again, keep in mind there are copyrights and patents that people can get in big trouble for. So we have to use a little bit of discretion on what we do before we just assume everything we're doing is hunky dory. It may not be.
Exactly. Cool.
Well, Susan, it's been a while since we've been on, and I don't know, it's been like months since we did the last show, but
I know.
um, we're going to try to be more. We've all been real busy and doing a million things, so we're going to try to keep doing more shows in the near future and bringing on guests again
Yes,
um, to keep information and knowledge and just the dialogue open and going. It's always fun. Um,
absolutely.
So anyway, well, thank you for being here, Susan, and if you're watching us, thank you, and we look forward to um, seeing you again next time. Also, if you have any comments, put them down in the comment area on YouTube, and we will try to answer as much as possible or make shows out of some of those questions.
Absolutely.
Well, Susan, we'll see you next week. Have
Thank
a good
you.
one, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.